Can you talk about some of those stepping stones from Philippines to lifestyle? I guess I would call it a lifestyle upgrade, but what was a major stepping stone? And I'm going to go with mentally, because I feel like the pieces, they can roll in your course. The pieces, they can go to my Fab Finance. So did you need to mentally have your mind open to an abundance mindset like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, especially like I said, when I started my Fab Finance, and even when I think about, how I grew up and how I think about things differently, I used to think there was a cap. And when you're working for an employer, there's a cap on how much you can make. There's a cap on, how much vacation time you can have. And so I used to operate with a cap mentality. And I ended up attending this church called Celebration Spiritual Center in Brooklyn, New York. And it really opened my mind to all that was possible. I was reading books like The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, this book, Think and Grow Rich, and The Energy of Money, and started really, and Money is My Friend, and started realizing that we can create our relationship with money. We can also create the energy that attracts money to us or repels money from us. And once I started to step into that, like each year, my income began to grow exponentially. Once I began to not to hoard money, but to intentionally get into the energetic flow of money without sounding too rah-rah, things began to change. That's when I started having 6-figure years. And then that's when I started having 6-figure months. And that's when 6-figure months started becoming the norm in my business, and where I was able to grow exponentially because I removed the caps. I removed what I thought my limits were. And I also started believing that I deserved to experience abundance. And I started allowing myself to experience abundance in all forms, whether that is time abundance, whether that is health abundance, family and relationship abundance, financial abundance, professional abundance, just being open to all forms of it and acknowledging all forms of it at play in my life. Okay, I'm grateful for every small thing, because every small thing allows me to live life as I intended to. And I feel like now I'm in that constant flow. It was kind of I started out with not being in that flow at all, to testing the waters. Okay, all right, yeah, this kind of works. It's kind of, to existing mostly in it, to existing completely in it, to the point where I think I had a few weeks ago, I had $36,000 in outstanding invoices from clients, and they're just kind of okay, it'll come. And I think previous me would have stressed out about that. Now, I'm not going to act like I didn't hit them up and say, hey, your invoice is out overdue. Where's the money at? But in the same sense, I don't stress about money the way I used to, because I know that I am in direct alignment with the flow of good in my life. And that's been a significant shift for me.
Do you remember and I know sometimes that's difficult, especially since it's been a period of years now, but was there an aha moment oh, this is proof of what I've read in these books, The Dynamic Prosperity, Think and Grow Rich? When did it come to fruition, or was it just a natural progression?
I think it's been a natural progression, but there was a moment where I was oh, snap. And I feel like that was probably my second year of entrepreneurship, my second full year of entrepreneurship. Because I think my full-time job before I left to work for myself full-time, I was making $65,000. My second full year of entrepreneurship, I ended up making $85,000. And I was I literally made more doing exactly what I wanted to do. And then, so that was a real, that was a moment where no, you're powerful. You created this out of thin air. You woke up on January 1st and none of this was in play. And December 31st, we have surpassed your income. What's next? And then I started setting goals, and I started knocking down those goals. I remember one of my goals the following year was to get a brand partnership over $50,000. And we got a brand partnership for $65,000. And I'm I just got a brand partnership equal to what my full-time salary used to be. Then I said I wanted to do a podcast, but I didn't want to be responsible for everything associated with producing the podcast.
I don't blame you.
Brought in as a podcast host and paid to host a podcast for another brand. At this point, we're at $100,000 that year. And I'm just I had a Diddy moment. That video, if anybody's seen that Diddy moment, where he was I'm an animal. He's just going, and I was oh my gosh, I'm unstoppable. What next? And that's where I am. This year, I decided, I was this is going to be the year I make $1 million in my business. And we are so close to it. I am only $250,000 away, and I have 3 months to make it happen. and it's going to happen. It's just like, wow. Yeah. So it is also like recognize it and then continuing to like continue to push and believe, but also taking action. Like I don't just wake up and sit in bed and say, this is my $1 million year.
Yeah.
Come to me. I'm like, I listen. I'm like, okay, what actions do I need to take to make this happen? What are the things I need to do to make this happen? But how can I do this in a heart aligned way where it feels like an extension of me and doesn't feel like work to me? So it's been a series. It's been those things. And there's this book called Feel It Real. They call it like little experiments. You do experiments to kind of like start to build your trust in abundance and build your trust. And it was a series of like small experiments over time. It's like, okay, I see. All right, let's go.
And this might not be them. This might not even be them in order. Let me get this ready. But I pulled a couple because some things have changed since we last spoke. So I pulled a couple from various places in the gram. And you made you alluded to one of those, but the little one. So I guess I would like to. I saw on your Instagram you have mom and entrepreneur, and I know it seems to do that you do everything with purpose. Why mom first, or what does motherhood as an entrepreneur mean for you?
You know, I think a lot of people use motherhood as a reason why they can't be powerful entrepreneurs. And for me, I knew I wanted to be a mother who was able to show up for my son on my own terms. And I was very intentional about planning my pregnancy and the type of mother that I wanted to become. So of all the titles I wear, like mother is one that I've been very intentional about. It's the one I'm the proudest of. And it's the one that for me is a direct, it's my legacy. Like my son, the children I'll have after him, they are my legacy. And I do things for me, like, you know, I'm part of my why, but my son and the children that will follow are often my why. But yeah, I'm a mom first. Like all this sits on the background for Karis. Like if we need to table it all gets tabled for him.
And the screen share that I had up for the people who are listening, not watching, was the Face of Wealth when you had the Black Enterprise cover. I think that was around 15, 16. So it might have been one of the stepping stones, but to
2014. I have 2014.
So to have, in that case, 2 years lead, and I think a little bit more for your son was actually here. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's a two-part question for moms presently who want to become an entrepreneur. What does that story look like? Because they might say it's not for them. And then for women who are entrepreneurs now, and if the wrong word is fear, but are concerned about becoming mothers and maintaining entrepreneurship. So I know that's a weighty and a two-part one, but do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, well, I can't necessarily speak to the first one because I intentionally waited to have my son after I became an entrepreneur. But I can say, you know, one of the things I always do and always did was look for all the reasons something is possible. And I know so many powerful mompreneurs, so many women who became entrepreneurs after having their kids. So I highly suggest looking for those women and finding out how they did it because it's possible. I have so many friends who were mothers first and then entrepreneurs, they became entrepreneurs. But for entrepreneurs who want to grow their family, want to have children, are afraid to take time off, build your business so that it can handle you having a family. Build your business so that it can handle you having maternity leave. Put the people in place that you can trust that will support your brand, support your vision, and so that you can take time to step away. Because at the end of the day, we want to build things that serve us and not things that we serve. And if you have a family vision in mind, then that's part of something that you want to build to serve your family vision. And so it's possible you can come back stronger. I know the year I had my son, like each year I made more and more and more money each year. But the year I had my son, I made more money than I had the previous year. And the pandemic hit, I made more money than I had the previous year. And now moving to Atlanta and everything else, I'm about to make more money than I had the previous year. So just have that solid team in place and have a solid plan in place and find ways to make money, even though you're pulling yourself out of your business for women who are interested in being mompreneurs.
I'm going to say that because it's great. And also as a reminder to myself, but build your business so it can support you having a family. I think that can apply to both men and women. So
yes, absolutely. And my husband is an entrepreneur too. And so my husband's been an entrepreneur longer than I have, but he's adjusted his business so that it supports our family.
I like that. You had here, I pulled this one from the gram. I believe it's a quote. Let me get that back on.
I think
Yeah, a woman's best protection is a little money of her own from
Mm-hmm.
Claire Luce. What does that mean to you?
It means that you should always have your own as a woman. I mean, I think that men, you know, when I get a lot of brands who approach me like these women and money studies, and they want to talk about women and money and everything else. And one of the things that they say is that women aren't confident when it comes to their finances, and they usually let the men in their life manage their finances. And I've been married twice. I remember my first marriage. My mom told me, she was like, I know you believe in him and I know you love him and everything else, but have a little bit of your own money to the side. Like, trust me, just have it to the side. And that came in handy because I ended up having to divorce my first husband. And when it was time for me to go, I had my own money to the side. And I was like, okay, I'm out. I didn't have to stay in a situation because of money. I didn't have to stay in a situation that didn't serve me because I didn't have the money. And when we think about women often being vulnerable in society, and, you know, it is a male dominated society. And so sometimes women are an afterthought, or women's needs are afterthought, or women aren't necessarily prepared for their futures. One of the best things you can do is just have the money aside to do whatever you need to do, and whenever you want to do it. So that's not to say you don't go into your relationship or your life or your family wholeheartedly with belief that it's going to work out. But have a little money to the side. Like I said, as someone who's been divorced, as someone who's in an abusive relationship, things can change. So, and I think for anybody, you know, I think men are typically better about having a little money to the side. I think it's kind of almost expected for men to have money to the side, and where women, it's not as expected for us to have something on the side. So,
and for those who are like, why is his eyebrows raised? I was like, wait, we are. I might need to. I don't know. The missus is aware of that, and it's
really. I think it's healthy in any. I think the relationship is
Because and I mean, I think you'll be familiar with this, and maybe this is something y'all have navigated over the years, but I have to check myself sometimes because I forget how comfortable I am in the personal finance space. I've been talking about money since like somewhere after 5, like graduating college, but I went right into the field of audit. So I was always talking about money, talking to people about money. I found FinCon in 16, like I said, and I just really found a network of people who could always talk about money. And I didn't realize that that's a differentiator. Like, I'll just make a casual comment on, you know, Instagram, Twitter, or whatever it is, and then people project all their insecurities, and then you are the representative for all things money. And I'm like, I've been sharing this stat for 25 years. I'm like, are people really upset about this? But
what's that, Marcus? What's that? What ruffles people's feathers?
Honestly, anything money ruffles people's feathers. And what's been, you alluded to in a different way earlier, but I started off in relationship writing. So seeing people upset about things not directed at them is not a surprise to me. So I think I'm better at navigating it. And I realize, like, you don't know me well enough to be this angry at me. For me to just be talking about the median wealth, and like, I definitely got called an asshole, and I forgot what I was talking about. Because that's how minute it was to me. I was like, he had used $100,000 for like the household income. I was like, yo, that excludes 87% of the population. You know, I've got this stuff memorized. I've been talking about it so long. He's like, well, you don't have to be an asshole. And I'm like, that I'm not. Like, this is a fact in which we can debate up and down, but this isn't a good example for you to start with because your assumption excludes 87% of the people. And it specifically excludes the people who follow me, who I'm speaking to, who tend to be women of color, 27 to 34, and women, 70% women. And so we are not talking. He was the opposite of me. Y'all can draw your own conclusions. So like, we aren't talking to the same audience. So maybe that's where your audience starts. Hop up out my mentions, because that's not, we don't have nothing to relate to. That's not where my audience starts.
Marcus, you be flaming people in the comments. I'm here for it. Let me Google that for you, and you don't know me well enough to be this mad at me.
Well, to that point, and again, that's just another age thing too. Is, you know, the missus, you know, she is, you know, truly my better half. So she'll bring me down. She's like, you know, that was a little terse. And I was like, really? I just thought I was just saying what was on my mind, and just, you know. And someone told me recently, the downfall of society, I think, is how they began it. But like, you know, email and text, it's he had a really great way to say it, but it's flat. Like, there's no tone to it. So I'm saying it as casual as I am to you. I'm like, oh, 87% of people in the United States don't make $100,000. But he read it as 87. You know, like, I'm like, that's not how I'm coming at you.
That wasn't the heart behind it.
Yeah, I'm gonna move on to the next tweet. But she's coming with me to FinCon as an example. But a lot of times I realize, and I think over time, we're in year 5, it'll just become normal. But I just share, like, I'm like, hey, I got 4 accounts. So she could care less. I'm like, I got 4 accounts over here for the business for these purposes. And sometimes I'll share tip points. I was like, they're in this file, you know, because at the end of the day, I am an African-American male, you know, living. And so I was like, they're in this file just in case for whatever reason you might need to find them. So I got this little file cabinet and everything like that. But I just transparent to me is more normal. But I think what you're describing is probably more representative of the average. Yeah. I would truly probably be in the exception, like, hey, it's in these accounts, there's 4 over here, and there's like 6 total. I lose track of some of my own accounts. So I'm like, and here's this spreadsheet. So you can track down and find all this information.
I really need to do that. Like, I really need to put them all on a spreadsheet. I'm bad about that.
I was just doing this recently. And to your point, like, all of these things are through lessons learned, and both, you know, painful and good is like, okay, this went wrong before. So I don't know what will go right, but I know this pathway is wrong. So let me try the opposite of that, and maybe I'll arrive at a different conclusion. I might arrive at a different wrong conclusion, but it won't be that train wreck over there.
Right.
And so I know people are going to hate me for this, but in the interest of time, and I want to let you know that I believe strongly in recurring guests. So if there's anything I could ever do to promote, like this entire show right now, it's called the Marcus Garrett Show, but I mostly interview people because I'm interested in other people's story. Is putting people on. So if there's ever anything you want to promote or add or have on, I know people are like, I hate when you do this. It's like the end of a therapy session. You've only addressed 15 of my problems, and I got a list of 50.